Okay, namaste. Welcome everyone for today's webinar on experiencing ragas. Our speaker, our guest, our faculty member is Dr. Kanikeshwaran, and we're going to be talking about this retreat that Kanikji has put together. We're going to introduce a musical retreat. This is the first time we're doing it. It's going to be happening on Ugadi weekend. We're going to take all of your questions. We're going to learn about the immersive sessions on ragas, on temple music, on nama sankirtanam, choral singing, and we're going to have different special evening presentations on the Shiva Stutis and Stalas. It's going to be an amazing retreat. So we're glad that you're part of this webinar. We're going to talk about this transformative musical experience, and this is your chance to engage with the maestro himself, Dr. Kanikeshwaran, joining us from Cincinnati, Ohio. Jonas from Manhattan, thank you for joining. Cindy, thank you for letting me know about the internet. I'm sorry. I'm going to get through the introduction and hand it to Kanikji. I'm Ankur Patel, Director of Outreach, joining from Surat in Gujarat, still in India. But let me introduce our faculty. Dr. Kanikeshwaran is an internationally known musician, composer, music educator, and scholar with many recordings, large-scale musical productions, and scores to his credit. Kanikji is known primarily for his pioneering work in Indian American choral and orchestral music based on ragas. And through his work, he has built diverse coalitions between amateur and professional musicians, ensembles, academic institutions, dance companies, and we are glad to have him with Hindu University of America talking about and launching this cutting-edge Experiencing Ragas Retreat. So with that brief introduction, let me hand it to Kanikji to get us started. I'll be in the background supporting. So Kanikji, let me hand it to you to get us going.
Sure. Okay, so namaste to everyone, and thank you all for being here. And so it's a joy to introduce this workshop and this retreat that we're doing for the first time. It's let me launch my PowerPoint, actually keynote presentation, and we'll walk through it to get an idea of what's in store. All right. The workshop is titled, the retreat is titled Experiencing Ragas. So it's like, it's 2 days and 1 evening, 2.5 day retreat starting Friday morning, Friday the 28th morning, and ending on by after lunchtime on Sunday the 30th. And there's a lot of activities in store, and it's actually offered in parallel to another retreat at the same time, which is titled Experiencing Shiva. And there'll be some areas of intersection when both the sessions intersect. But by and large, there'll be concurrent parallel sessions. So this retreat focuses on music, and the other one focuses on Shiva. And the areas of intersection where we explore the intersection between Shiva and music from many different standpoints. So this is literally an immersion into the world of Indian art music, or Shastriya Sangeet. So there's many of us, like Indian music is an integral part of Indian culture, and many in the community, particularly in the non-resident Indian community in America, familiar with, to a greater extent, with Indian art music. And we refer to Indian art music as Shastriya Sangeet, which is whose grammar is governed by Sangeeta Shastra. Now, the word immersion is very important here. This is a time where we actually celebrate immersion, the whole idea of the whole um, vaibhavam of the Kumbh Mela that is happening at this point in time in the world, where the intersection, where the confluence of the rivers Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati is not just revered but actually celebrated with an arduous, what used to be an arduous pilgrimage to that place, um, with the access to that space is a lot easier now, except the crowds gathering there are way more than what they used to be. But nevertheless, it's unless you go there, we can talk endlessly about the Kumbh Mela, but we will not get a feel of it till you actually experience it. And I, unfortunately, have not experienced the Kumbh Mela. I have family members in India that are actually going there to be part of this huge occasion. But we can immerse ourselves in the world of Sangeetam. And so it's not just talking about music, but it's not just about listening to music. It's about getting an experiential feel of music, to get into the depth of some compositions, to understand what's behind music, and actually sing some aspects of it. Some select compositions, things that are easy to sing, and I'll get into that in just a bit. But before I delve much further, I'm going to play this composition. It's a video recording of children singing a composition whose lyrics are known to many many connoisseurs of Carnatic music. But if you listen carefully to the lyrics, you will, for those that have taken classes with the HUA, you will understand the significance of some of the lyrics. Let me just play it now, and then I'll explain why I chose to play this at the beginning of the workshop. Hmm. So, anybody, I just want some feedback from the audience. Do people know what this, were you able to listen to this? I saw a comment saying that they were not able to listen to the music well. Were you able to listen to the music?
Yeah, it came out pretty good. Kelsey
Okay.
says it was beautiful.
Okay.
Gently
Thank you.
Geno's.
Yes, it's a composition by Sada Shiva Brahmendra. Yes. Sadashiva Brahmendra, I deliberately introduced this composition. Sadashiva Brahmendra was a mystic, an Advaitin, a yogi, Swami who renunciated, who lived more than 300 years ago. And his compositions, his writings, his short compositions are simple and easy to understand. They are in basic Sanskrit, and they are all about the Advaitic philosophy of the oneness of existence. Sarvam Brahmamayam. Kim Vachaniyam, Kim Avachaniyam, and Sarvatra Sadha, Hamsa Dhyanam, and so on and so forth. So, for those that have taken courses in Vedanta, you should be able to follow some of the lyrics here. So, this is an example of choral singing. I mean, this composition is the lyrics of this are the lyrics of these composition are very easily accessible, and they have been adapted into the world of Carnatic music or Kacheri music, and it's sung in very much in the Carnatic music paradigm. But there's no reason why it cannot be adapted into other music paradigms such as Hindustani music, and this was one of the things we did. So, of course, the lyrics are in Sanskrit, and I had written this in a choral form. I had arranged this in a choral form that it was easy for children to sing. So you can see the ease and the joy with which the children have handled the words and phrases in this. And it's the whole thing is based on a philosophical construct. But when you see the children emanating the joy of this of singing of the oneness of existence, it really really comes alive. So I wanted to share that with you before proceeding further. So let me go back to the screen again. So what will we get from this retreat? This, somebody has a question, please type in your question. I'll be happy to answer them then, or if it's a concern or something, Ankur should be able to address it as we go on. So what will you get from this retreat? So some ideas about music. One is how music is regarded, Sangeetam is regarded as a moksha margam in the dharmic traditions. It is not merely a form of entertainment. What is the history of Shastriya Sangeet? How old is it? What are the origins? And how has it evolved over the years? We'll get into some of the basics of Shastriya Sangeet, which is ragas and talas, and demystify some of these concepts and actually enable you to relate to them. And then we'll deal with ragas in popular music or even popular culture. And I'll show you some examples of that. And then we'll also explore the experience of singing in choir or singing in a group. Many of us have some are bashful about singing in public. Here's my theory. At least about 70% of humanity can sing. 20%, 10% can sing very well. 20% can sing fairly well. And about 50% of humanity can sing with a little bit of guidance. And they can sing comfortably when there are other people singing around them. Usually congregational music works very well in this kind of a setting. And choral music takes it a little beyond that, in the sense there's formal arrangements that allow you to sing in parts and bring the whole thing together. And raga based choral music is a level that's even beyond that, and we will get into that in just a bit. So how is the retreat organized? So there's going to be interactive lecture sessions, and there will be sing along sessions or choir sessions where we will actually learn to sing a few short compositions. We'll have some informal performances and some special evening sessions. So this is the format in which the material is going to be delivered and shared with you. I don't want to use the word delivered. So that's going to be shared between us and you, so that we experience the joy of raga-based music. So now, what are the interactive lectures that are going to be featured? So we will deal with the foundations of art music, and then ragas in popular culture, ragas in theory and practice in the Carnatic tradition, and ragas in theory and practice in the Hindustani tradition, and ragas in the devotional traditions, such as Nama Sankirtanam and liturgical music in temples and so on. So I'm just going to explore a little of these topics, a little bit of these, and then open the floor for questions. Kamlesh ji, did you have a question? I see a raised hand. Okay. So foundations of Indian art music. So, like I said before, Shastriya Sangeet or Indian art music. First of all, what is want to introduce a question. What do we mean by classical music? Any answers? Please type in your answers. What is your perception of classical music? Whether it's Western classical music or whether it's Indian classical music, just type in your answers if you may, if you would, in the chat window. Yeah, there's both Indian classical music and European classical music. Okay, has been sung the same way for many, many years. Example, Tyagaraja Kirtana is structured and not altered. Yeah, all these are good answers. Is the entire program taught in English? Yes, it is. Okay, anything else? What about music that is not being sung? Something that's played on a veena or a violin. Would you call that classical music? Okay, I'm going to say this. Classical music is something that has survived the test of time. It's a way of making music which conforms to a certain grammar or certain shastras that are related to, that govern how it's to be played and sung, and something that's actually survived the test of time. Innovations keep happening in the world of music. It's only some of them survive, and it's like the survival. I don't want to use the word survival of the fittest, but I've read an interview with one of the greatest singers of our times, one of the greatest musicians of our times, Bala Murali Krishna. What he says is that innovation should never be stifled, because anyone is free to innovate as long as you stick to the basic framework of the grammar of the music. And beyond that, if something that you create is worth surviving, if it pleases the Rasika, it will survive this test of time. And once it survives the test of time, it becomes part of the classical repertoire, so to say. So, for instance, there are movies that are classics. They are timeless music and movies. You can watch them at any point in time. And on the other hand, there are some compositions that have been created in the classical paradigm itself, which have not survived the test of time. So we will get into more serious debates on questions like this when we actually get into the retreat. Another thing about Indian music is the regard that is placed on the musical system. It is Music is not just a means of entertainment. Music is not just a means of prayer. It is not It is not an off. It's more than an offering. It is more of a marga. It's a path where there's an often quoted sloka which goes Veena Vadana Tattvajnaha Shruti Jati Visharadaha Talajnaha Aprayasena Moksha Margam Niyaschati. So to whom to the person that's trained in the art of playing the veena, who's an expert in the art of playing the veena, Veena Vadana Tattvajnaha, Shruti Jati Visharadha, one who's an expert in the science of the quarter tones and the ragas and the scales. Talajnaha, one is aware of the intricacies of tala. Aprayasena, without effort, moksha margam niyaschati. To this person, moksha is assured. So music enjoys an exalted status, and if you even take some stotra literature like the Shyamala Navaratnamala or Shyamala Dandakam, Devi herself is viewed as a personification of the art of music itself. And she's described as Sarigama Pada Nirata. So given all, we will look at some of these slokas and the context of classical music itself before we get into some terminologies like shrutis, ragas, talas, and so on and so forth. And then we will get into ragas in popular culture. Now, raga is an element of Indian classical music, but it's also an element of popular music. It's very Indian film music is something that's a major part of not just Indian popular culture, but also the diaspora culture. There's a huge Indian diaspora outside of India, and we carry Indian culture with us, and we also enjoy popular music like from films and so on and so forth. And the Indian film industry is like 10 decades old, and there are film songs that go back to the beginning of film music times in India, and much of it is based on Indian ragas. Indian film music kind of takes on the influence of so many different cultures and musical streams. But in the earlier days, it was pretty much based on ragas. In fact, in Hindi movies, we actually see the usage of some standard bandishes that are performed in concerts that are used in films. In Carnatic music, you even see tunes of popular compositions from the classical repertoire with lyrics written in the film paradigm. And some ragas are very commonly used in Indian music. So for now, I'm just going to say that the raga Kalyani, for those that are familiar with Shastriya Sangeet, the word Kalyani, the raga Kalyani in Carnatic music and the raga Yaman or Kalyan in Hindustani music is something that's very commonly used. I'm going to play for you an overture that I had composed for symphony orchestra. The first movement of the overture, which is completely based on the scale of the raga Yaman or the raga Kalyan, and you will see how many film melodies it touches. So, let me play it now. So that was the first movement of this piece. Now, that should give you an idea of the popularity of some of these melodies. Um, it, 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 the public at large, I mean, the population that listens to classical music and it's aware of the theoretical fundamentals is probably only a small fraction of the huge population that listens to popular music. But the popularity of these melodies that are actually based on the scales of classical ragas is pretty high, as you would have seen from the reaction of the audiences here. So there is quite a bit of influence of art music or classical music in the film world, and we will look at some of that and identify some of the popular melodies that are known to us that are based on classical ragas. And this will be a very fun-filled session. Now let's go to the rest of what the retreat looks like. Okay. Now, Carnatic music is the music of southern India. It's a classical tradition or the art music tradition of southern India. It's an ancient tradition. What we hear on the stage today in what are called kacheris is a reflection of all the development that has happened over the last couple of millennia. In particular, the liturgical music of the first millennium, which was celebrated in, which still continues to be celebrated in temples, and the roots of all of which go back to some very ancient works. One of which is the Silappatikaram, which was written almost 2,000 years ago. So, what is Carnatic music? How are ragas treated in Carnatic music? What does the repertoire look like? We listen to a few kritis. We try to keep beat with them. We'll understand how manodharma or improvisation is done and what are the components of a kriti. We'll try to encourage people in class to sing. We'll learn certain passages from kritis. Then we'll get into ragas in Hindustani music. How does the approach to a raga differ in Hindustani music? How a raga is treated in Hindustani music? Then what is the difference in textual content? What are the lyrics in Hindustani music made of, and how do they contrast with lyrics in Carnatic music? So the contrast, learning the contrast and learning a few bandishes in Hindustani music. And Hindustani music is a very general term. It is, can I have a show of answers as to, please type in your answer. What do you define Hindustani music as? What is Carnatic music and what is Hindustani music? Let's have some interaction. Look forward to some answers. Please type in. What is Carnatic music and what is Hindustani music? I would love to get some answers. Please do type in.
If you'd like to answer with your voice, raise your hand in the participant window and I can give you a chance to unmute as well. All right, Kamleshi, but we've got some answers. Jayanti ji. Carnatic is the original style. Hindustani has some Persian influence, is that right?
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
All right, Kamleshi, you have unmuted. Please make your comment.
What should I do?
Were you going to answer Kanikji's question?
Yeah, I'm questioning. You asked me the difference between Hindustani and it is just a little bit of accent. To me, it seems when the Kannada language is done, but the sur is the same. However, when the Muslims came, they altered a little bit of here and there, and it became just a distinct Darbari music. And that is just change of a few notes here and there. And somehow or other, the entire country feels that it was Tansen who invented these ragas, whereas the actual base is in Carnatic music. So Darwari was Darwari, Karnataka. And Tansen did not invent. As a historian of music, the musicology, I find that.
All right. Thank you for sharing. We have quite a few answers in the chat. Kanixi, would you like me to read them or would you want to read them?
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'll go ahead and read them. So one of them says Hindustani music, well, Hindustani music can be more cultural and flexible, whereas Carnatic music might be more ancient and related to scripture and more structure and form. There's more flexibility in Hindustani music, and someone says that Hindustani music is the northern part of India and Carnatic music is from the southern part of India. Let me start here. Carnatic music is the art music that you hear practiced in southern India. Okay. And is it simple enough to say that Hindustani music is the music from northern India? And here's where I beg to differ. Hindustani music is the music that is in practice, the art music that's in practice in the rest of India, north, east, and west. So apart from the 4 southern states, the art music that you hear in the rest of India is Hindustani music. I look at the Shastriya Sangeet of India as a common tradition which I refer to as Raga Vidya, which is just the knowledge of the ragas. And in the way it is presented, in the way it is dealt with, in the way the compositions are structured, we have the southern or the Carnatic tradition and the northern or the Hindustani tradition. Yes, both the traditions have absorbed a lot of influences over a period of time, but the original structure, the fundamentals have been retained. The idea of ragas and talas and the philosophy of music is uniform between the north and the south. So we will explore some of these as we get in there, and how ragas are handled, how improvisation is handled, what are the different techniques for interpretation, for improvisation in the south versus the north. So I see another answer. Carnatic has its origin in the southern Indian music and Hindustani in northern Indian music, but they have some fundamentals. Yes, whereas theoretical ways, lyrics are more devotional, as well as in Hindustani music, it's much more broader. That's absolutely correct. Yeah, in Carnatic music, the lyrics are primarily devotional in nature, in the bhakti rasa and the shanta rasa. In Hindustani music, you find a lot of shringara rasa as well. So thank you guys for the participation. That really enlivens the conversation. Let's go to the next one. Then we get into liturgical music. What do we mean by liturgical music? Any quick answers? You can either unmute and say something or type in. What do I mean by liturgical music? Anyone? Yeah, temple music or devotional music. It's even beyond that. Like a bhajan we perform, a kirtan that we perform is devotional music. The songs that you hear, just go to YouTube and type in the word Sanskrit devotional. You'll hear a lot of music, or Hindi devotional. You'll see Anuradha Podwal popping up as one of the leading artists, or Ashit Desai, or Sirgari Govindarajan, or someone. But liturgical music is widely, I'm seeing an answer from Sophia. Liturgical music is widely defined as one being sung in sacred religious setting. So I want to go to a specific instance of it. In southern India, we have a large repertoire of liturgical music, which is referred to as the Tevaram. All of this was composed more than 1,000 years ago. And this is actually used as part of the worship services by a community of people that has been dedicated to preserving and singing these in temples for the last 1,000 years. And there's a lot of information contained in this music about temples, about the condition of temples as they existed more than 1200 years ago. A lot of references to the Puranas and a lot of descriptions of deities that are enshrined. So this is very very much connected to the deity on whom the music was composed. And this has actually been preserved and sung in temples for the last thousand years, thanks to the contribution of the king by name Raja Chora. And we will listen to examples of these and see how the temples that are connected to these are um, how these are connected to temples and how they are sung in temples today. So liturgical music is going to be a big component of what we look at in this course. And let me get back to the presentation again. And then we'll get into an immersive experience into choral sessions. What I mean by that is this. Indian music is essentially an individual experience. So when you sing, it's the individual that expresses themselves, expresses their devotion or feelings or their virtuosity or whatever. So there's a lot of manodharmam or improvisation in Indian music. There's a kind of a formality which is very different from the formality that you see in Western music. And here's the difference. In Western music, you have what's called functional harmony. So you have many different instruments playing at the same time, which you do not see in Indian music. So a concert of Indian music is complete when you have an artist singing on stage and when you have one accompaniment playing along with them. Or let's say you take a concert of Rudra Veena or just the Saraswati Veena. You just have the Veena player on stage and you have a percussionist playing along with them and a Tanpura giving what's called the Shruti in the background. And that's it. And they're able to hold a whole audience spellbound for like a whole hour. Whereas in the Western classical world, you see a symphony orchestra of like 100 people playing together. There's something that holds all of it together, a score, a conductor, and the way the music is written, and many instruments playing many different things at the same time. So we refer to this as harmony. And you also see choir singing in churches and even in other places, like even when the national anthem is sung, you see many parts to the music. And all these are based on prior arrangements of the music. So what this is essentially kalpita sangeetam, or something that's been pre-composed. Now, some of the work that I've done over the last 25, 30 years is actual experimentation or creating a new sound where Indian raga traditions interact with choral and the orchestral traditions of the West. So in many cases, you see an Indian community choir singing ragas, just like how we saw the kids sing Sarvam Brahmamayam in an easily accessible tune in a raga called Shuddha Danyasi. And they were singing polyphonic music. That is, you could see passages intersecting with each other, one complementing the other, and you could also see the instruments engaging with the orchestra in a pre-written way. The whole thing was held together. Choral singing is a fun-filled experience. So when you have a group of 100 people singing together, the whole atmosphere is something very special. So let's look at some examples. So here's one from a production that we did. This is a performance from 2014.
Sahana bhavatu. Sahanau bhunaktu. Sah veeryam karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
So that was from a musical production called Shanti, A Journey of Peace that we had done many years ago. And next I want to play you another example of one of our choral experiences.
Together and we sing, there's a certain level of energy that gets generated and it just elevates the whole experience. And so I really think that, it's going to be a great, great production.
Music will bring people together, and Shanti is one such journey.
Everybody can find something to identify with in this whole event.
Never heard of a Shanti finishing without a standing ovation.
Hold on. Nirisa nida madha pama gari nirisa. 1, 2, 3, go. Nirisa nida madha pama gari nirisa.
Here's another example. Sorry.
Cincinnati is kind of turning into a melting pot cultures, and I think this is just a fantastic step forward.
It brings Eastern and Western thought together.
I was really astonished by the amount of energy it generates.
It's a very diverse group of people.
We all part of the Shanti because we feel connected.
But here, the sound I feel is something totally unique, totally, ethereal, and totally different.
The energy comes from the excitement that the music engenders in people.
It's like a great fellowship. It's excitement.
There's a lot of things you probably have never heard and maybe never will hear, again.
You don't have to understand the words to feel, what the music is saying.
So the next thing I want to share is that weekend we're also going to be seeing a workshop called Experiencing Shiva, which is also a fantastic workshop on some of the rituals and the philosophy in the Shiva tradition, as well as a lot of shlokas and stotras dedicated to Shiva. This experiencing ragas is offered during the same time, so it can be a clash for some people that are interested in both these topics. But in one way, both these topics complement each other, and where they complement is in the following: manner. So this is an example. This is a picture of the temple town of Chidam, or the temple at Chidambaram, which is one of the greatest centers of Shiva worship. And there was a Vageyakara, a composer by name Muthuswami Dikshitar. And look carefully at his birth year, 1775. And we are in 2025. It's been 250 years since he was born. So this is a very special year. So we're going to dedicate one evening session on Dikshitar and Shiva. What is special about Muthuswami Dikshitar is that he traveled pretty much like the bhakti yogis of the first millennium. And he went from temple to temple singing its praises in classical ragas in the Sanskrit language. And the net result is that we have a whole set of kritis that are sung in kacheris today and a whole set of kritis that are not sung and not even heard. So one evening session is going to be an exploration of some of these kritis along with visuals of these temples. And a little bit of sing-along where we just pick some accessible lines from these compositions and sing them together, or at least recite them together. So this will be a very enjoyable session for all of us. It will be interactive. We will stand to gain quite a bit of knowledge about the temple traditions and how they relate to the musical traditions, and how some of the temple traditions have been captured in music by Muthuswami Dikshitar. And the final workshop is going to be even more interesting. This is just about the 5 of the temples that are dedicated to Shiva. Everybody in this group should be aware of the Panchamahabhutas, Agni, Vayu, Akasham, Jalam, and Prithvi. Or if you look at them in the convention, in the actual order, the actual sequence from the gross to the subtle, Prithvi, then Jalam, then Agni, then Vayu, then Akasham. So these are the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. Now, Shiva is worshipped as a manifestation of these 5 elements: Panchabhuta Karanam, Panchabhuta Karakam, however you look at him. And there are 5 very special temples in southern India that are dedicated to Shiva in the form of the 5 elements. Chidambaram is called the Akasha Sthalam, where this Chidambara Rahasyam, where Shiva is worshipped both in the form of a dancer as well as in the form of the formless Arupa. Then you have Sri Kalahasti in southern Andhra Pradesh, where Shiva is referred to as the Vayu Lingam. And there's very interesting stories about that place. And then the third is Agni, Tejo Maya Lingam, which is in Arunachalam or Tiruvannamalai. And many people should be familiar with Tiruvannamalai. And the fourth is water, Jambu Keswaram near Srirangam, near the town of Tiruchirappalli, where a new airport was inaugurated with a facade that kind of looks like the Srirangam temple. And finally, Kanchipuram, which is the site of the Prithvi Lingam. It's a Prithvi Kshetram, where Shiva is worshipped in the form of an anthill. So Muthuswami Dikshitar has visited all these places and composed long, very special kritis about each one of them. So we'll be looking at these in detail and actually experiencing them and taking a journey through these temples in the final in one of the sessions, which is supposed to be held on Saturday night of the whole retreat. So that's in a sense of what we're going to be experiencing during the 3 days. So I'm going to pause for questions, and Ankur, if he's doing the survey, this is probably a good time to do it. We just have another 3 minutes left.
Yes, I just launched the poll, and we're on a webinar, we're online, but as Kanixji said, in person, the music vibrations, the way that it will feel will be different. It will hit harder. It'll be amazing. So hopefully you'll be able to experience Ragas in person at our Pine Lake campus. If you haven't visited Hindu University of America's campus in Florida, this is a great opportunity that brings it all together. Jayanti Ji, you have your hand raised. Let me allow you. I know you're already signed up for the Experiencing Shiva Retreat, so maybe your question is around that. Jayanti Ji, go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. My question is on that. I'm already signed up for the Experiencing Shiva Retreat. How can I be in both the places? That's my question.
You can clone yourself. It's kind of difficult. Yeah, you can probably pick and choose between the sessions, and yeah.
Yeah, I want to be in both the places, and I'm a Carnatic singer, so uh, okay,
Yeah.
this is a
Hmm.
hard one. So let's figure out maybe when we meet, if I can get to know from you what the sessions are, and maybe I
Yeah,
can pick
definitely.
and choose one session here, one session there. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
and you
like
can
when we
share
go to
the
these
slides,
profession.
maybe. Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. The recordings also. Yeah. If we see when we go to these professional conferences, there's always concurrent sessions, right? And
yeah,
sometimes it becomes very difficult to, if you stick to one track, you'll be missing stuff in every other track. So you see people running between one session and the other, kind of like during the Kacheri season in Chennai, where people run from one sabha to the other. So it is kind of like that, but we'll figure out. I'm sure it'll be a lot of joy to see about how many ever people that are gathered there that are like-minded, that share an interest in temples and Hindu traditions and music. So I think that itself will energize us in a very, very powerful way, and I can't wait to interact with everyone.
sounds good. And also the verse that you shared about Devi, and will you be sharing that in the workshop? Because honestly, we can talk in person, like all the TMK
Oh
influence. This
yeah,
is the
definitely.
kind of verse that counters some of that. So
Yeah, we will talk about all that. About the Moksha Margam as well as the Sarigama Patanirata. Those will be an integral part of the workshop. Yes.
yeah, okay, sounds good.
Yeah, and also some Tamil verses to the same effect.
Sounds good. Yeah, I would like to get a pointer to those because there's so much misinformation going on, especially with the
Absolutely.
TMK followers. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and we should look at both sides, and I don't even want to say both sides, but there's many different perspectives, and there's a lot to be gained from both. But then there's this strong dharmic foundation which we all need to be aware of. Yes.
Got it.
Great. Thank you,
Any other
Jantaji. We'll be
questions?
sure to
Yeah.
connect and follow up and get you those details. Kamleshi says, the most riveting session I've attended in a long time. Thank you, Kamleshi, for joining the webinar. Hopefully you'll be able to attend the retreat. Cindy is asking, will we learn or discuss Tamil devotionals? Is there an opportunity to?
It'll be part of the workshop. It will be part of the retreat. Yes.
Nice. Sophie is asking for some books that she can read. We'll share that in an email afterwards. Maybe Kanixji, if you have something at the top of your mind that you think is particularly good for deepening knowledge of the concept of raga.
Yeah, we'll do that via email. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
for the
you. So the
question.
poll
Yeah.
is up. Please answer the poll. Yes, no, maybe, definitely. We have not even half of the folks have responded to the retreat question yet. I also put the details in the chat. So it's going to be at our campus in Pine Lake. It's Groveland, Florida. It's outside of Orlando, about an hour. You fly into MCO. Sattvic vegetarian meals are included. Kanixji went through all of the workshops. We have two sets of accommodations. One is a shared chalet. We'll send you photos and all of those details. $700 per person, $1,350 for a family of two, or a shared house, almost like dormitory style. But if you're a family of four, it's could be a nice little experience, a retreat for you and your family. And again, between the two retreats, if you have four family members, two of you could do the Ragas, and two of you could do experiencing Shiva. I think the last retreat we had something similar between astronomy, Indian astronomy with Dr. Rajvedam, and Sanskrit. So some folks came as a family and half did one and half did the other. So it was a really exciting set of retreats last time. We're hoping that this one takes it to the next level. And of course, Kanixji and the music in person, I think it's going to be amazing. I'm asking Kalyanji to send me for this one too. Hopefully I will be there. But SRK is asking, is a schedule drawn for 4 days? Is this for an evening, but on multiple days? Yeah, yeah. So it's 2 nights, 3 days, 2.5 days, right? So from the
Yeah,
27th to the 30th.
yeah. There's the reception on 27th night, I believe, and then the full day sessions are on 28th and the 29th. On the 30th, we have a morning session, concluding with concluding remarks by Kalyan ji, and then we will end by lunchtime on Sunday.
Yeah. Let me drop it in the chat one more time. The link will take you to the landing page where you can get some more of those details. You can look at the location itself. Jayanti ji was at the last retreat, and she says meals were mostly vegan also. She had a great time in the Sanskrit camp. So it is... Actually, it's 3 nights then, right? 27th night, 28th night, 29th night. So 3 nights, 4 days. Sorry about that little misspeaking on my part. Yes, Double Bay, that is 27, 28, 29th nights. And pictures of the accommodation. I can do a quick screen share if my internet is stable as I closed a bunch of other screens. I'll put in the chat. Pine Lake Retreat, this is the location. You can take a look there. Whose hand is up? Jayanti ji, go ahead.
So I thought this was 28, 29, 30th, right? 28th whole day, 29th whole day, and 30th morning. Are you saying it's there on 27th whole day too? Because I booked my flight ticket.
No. 27th is just an intro at night, just because people may arrive on the 27th. And then
Okay, I'm arriving only at 7 p.m. in Orlando. So by the time I come, it will be 8:30. So
I'm getting there only by 5:30 or something. So by the time we get to campus, it'll be 7.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure.
Great. Thank you, Jayanti ji. Glad that you're already got the logistics and you're planning it out. These retreats are a big part of where we want to go with HUA. Somehow this link is not working. Okay, let me see. Yeah, the website's down over there at Pine Lake Retreat. I'll update that in a quick second. Yeah, so right, the online courses, amazing. They've really proved to be educational, informational, and amazing for people who have taken them. But now that we're going towards these in-person retreats in parallel, given Kanixji, especially some of these subjects are, you want to experience them. So I think this is going to be a great opportunity at the end of March. And we'll do one more probably webinar with Kanixji and Shriyaswaji where we can talk in more detail about how they will overlap and some of the other details. Thank you, Doubleboy. There's the link to the Pine Lake Retreat that works. So you can take a look at the images there. That's what the space looks like. Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Please ask now. Raise your hand, put it in the chat. Okay, Kritika ji, yes, thank you. Kanixji, I think we're closing in. Just make my last pitch. I think you are going to really enjoy it. We've gotten better with these retreats, logistically, the food, and Kanixji, I think this is the first time you're offering this retreat with HUA, but you've got like 30 years of teaching. So this is in your wheelhouse.
No, that'll be fun.
So many of the choral and orchestral things that you've done, and I'm looking forward to people coming there and singing. Like you said, also people don't like singing necessarily when they're on their own, but in a group, it can.
Yeah, this will be a lot of fun. A lot of interaction. Yeah. So I'm going to drop off. Somebody's calling me, and thank you everyone for being on this. And most people have stayed back till the end. So I really appreciate your presence today. Look forward to seeing most of you, and please also spread this word amongst your friends. And it'll be, the more the number of participants, the more lively it gets, and the more the energy we generate. So I really look forward to it. And we may add a couple of surprise performances and events as well. So we'll talk about that when Ashwath ji and I get into a joint webinar. So looking forward. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Kanixji.
And namaste. Yeah.
Namaste. All right. I can stay on, take any other technical questions. Double is asking, how easy or difficult is it to transfer from the airport to the retreat? The Ubers or Lyfts are about $60, $80, $60 to $80, depending on exactly the time of day, how busy it is. We'll try to organize some carpools and other things, but rental car is not so necessary because it's 4 days that you're going to be there. Once you're there, you don't really need a car. But if you want that flexibility, you can have it. Yeah, there's no public transport though. Buses don't really go from the airport to the retreat space yet. But once you register, include a note about transportation and we'll coordinate, once you have your flight, your details, we can see who else is coming at the same time and coordinate a little bit. That'll be Irvin Swamiji, our Vice President of Operations, who's going to be handling those details. And again, depending if Kalyanji sends me or not, I may be doing some airport runs back and forth. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, the agenda is whole day, not just evenings. Yes, Double Bay, there'll be whole sets of things going on during the day, almost like classes, right? There's some classrooms, and there'll be some experiencing Shiva sessions in one set of classrooms and experiencing Ragas in the other set of classroom. And then the evening program, as Kanixji mentioned, will be kind of the performance. And as he even said, maybe a surprise performance or two. And if you bring your instruments, I'm sure that he will be able to incorporate, if you play a sitar or a guitar or a wind instrument, whatever it is, if you can travel with that, I'm sure Kanixji would be able to incorporate that somehow. Yes, yes. All right, so the poll is still up. How many folks were honing in on the end of the webinar? Please fill it out. All right, any last questions? Great. Okay, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. I hope I see you either in class on Zoom or better yet in person at the retreat at our campus in Groveland, Florida. Thank you everyone. Dhanyavad. Have a good rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.